Well, happy 909, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Collar Mystics podcast. I have a special treat for you today. I was able to hang out in person with Joe Rupe of Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM when I was in Florida. Must have been a couple of weeks ago, I guess, by now. And this episode is really cool. We actually got to go and just hang out on the beach and do a podcast on the beach together. He and I have really started to develop a really cool friendship. I love what he's doing with Fringe FM. If you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check out Fringe FM. They have a really cool app. You can just download it on your phone. It's a radio station, legit, good music, cool shows. Check that out. Also go to joerupe.com and you can download The Art of Relaxation. Joe's big thing is really astral projection and getting out of your body. That's really his thing that he wants to share with people, wants people to experience. And the beginning of that, and really all the esoteric stuff, is to learn how to just relax, how to control, your state of mind. And so I highly recommend downloading that. It's a free gift on his website. And he's got some courses and stuff on deeper hermetic kind of stuff. But we talk a lot about some misinterpretations, different ideas of things. We talk about the Baphomet. He gives his take on that. A lot of stuff about illusion and reflection and how a lot of these ancient hermetic principles really dovetail into this sort of new and modern stuff. We also talk about some things that might be a little bit controversial otherwise too, just ideas and interpretations that we each have. But toward the end of the episode, we get into some really deep stuff. I hope you can hang in through that. There is some sort of issue I had with these new mics that I'm using where we had to kind of try to fix it to where you can hear Joe better at the end, but he gets into some really good stuff. If you can hang into it, I do recommend hanging in it. It gets better and better, and it's a great episode live from the beach, and I hope you'll have a wonderful 9/9. We're wishing you the best. Enjoy this episode with Joe Rupe, Truth Serum. Walking down a dock, down to a beach, down to the surf with Joe Rupe, Owen Hunt here, Bootsy Greenwood, AKA, that's my stripper name. That's my Instagram handle. That's my, if you want to have a good time, late night. Holla at your boy.
I'd rather be with you. You know that song I thought when you first told me Bootsy? There's a guy named Bootsy.
Bootsy Collins.
That sings that song. I love that song.
Man, I love Bootsy Collins. He's an incredible bass player.
I ain't taking my tennis shoes out there. Is it wet?
It's actually pretty dry. So we're on the beach here.
All right.
In Daytona Beach. Joe Rupe and I talking some business stuff, talking about life and really just development in general, where we're going. And
I got to stash my beers if the lifeguard comes.
Yeah, well, I'll keep an eye out. We'll be good. I'm nimble. I'm quite nimble. And we're here on this beautiful beach. It's an interesting town here. What is this, Daytona Beach? It was built in the 50s, really, kind of, like all these condos and stuff that were around. And they're kind of cool and kitschy, and it was built kind of based around the racetrack here, during that time. A lot of people were coming here. It's claimed to be America's, or maybe the world's most famous beach.
According to Daytona Beach.
According to Daytona Beach, it is the world's most famous beach, which is a bold claim.
I highly doubt that.
It is a bold claim, but it is nice here. The weather's very pretty. It rained most of the afternoon, but we went out and had lunch. And
out of all the beaches in the planet Earth, You'll have to forgive me. I'm not very good at articulation.
No, I think you actually are pretty good at articulation.
Out of all
just
the
getting started.
beaches on the planet Earth, there's no way this one's the most famous beach. Famous? Like, if you think about beaches, what's like the top 5?
Ibiza is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Oh, yeah, Ibiza should be the most. You know how bad I want to go to Ibiza? Like, bad, dude. I know it's weird for like a redneck to want to go to Ibiza, but I really, really want to go to that place.
Sure. Yeah. There's lots of cool beaches and lots of cool places to go. And this place is cool itself. Like,
do you think it would be like Razzles, where there's nothing but 19-year-olds walking around?
I mean, that's just kind of the nature of going out. I don't know. I mean, Ibiza would be different, I think, in Europe. When we went out, I feel like it was an older,
didn't you?
It was an older crowd going out. But yeah, I mean, around here, it's mostly young people, and people going out in the States, it's mostly young people, and, you know, whatever. I mean, we went out tourist style tonight.
I'd like to go to the EDM festivals that they have here, but that Razzles, I thought it was going to be cool. I mean, it was cool.
Well, whatever.
But we had like dropped $150 and got, what, 2 drinks?
Yeah, it was definitely not cheap. And I mean, you know, it's a nightclub. It is what it is. If you knew somebody who was there, if you knew a promoter, if you knew somebody who worked there, it could be actually really cool and really fun and all that. But we just bopped in there to check it out. And yeah, the vibe was a little young, probably for you and I, so we got out of there. And now we're here recording this podcast on the beach, which I'm stoked about, because I'm happy that you and I get to just get down to brass tacks and like not have any formality. We can just like stand here on the beach, have a drink, look at the ocean.
There's literally nobody on this beach.
There's nobody else here. It's just you and I. We're recording this, which is kind of cool.
We went out here last night and saw this really weird blue, like portal-looking thing in the sky.
There was a weird light in the sky.
And it turned out it was a ray, but I still don't know where the ray came from as soon as the clouds disappeared. But the way this beach is, you can see for miles down the beach that way. And there's been so many nights, bro, when I first moved here, that I would just come out here and just like sit and stare. It's kind of cool, but then it's like, you know me, I hate being like isolated too. It'd be cool if somebody's here, so I'm glad you're here.
Man, I'm happy to be here. This is very cool. It's amazing to stand here on the beach. You know, nobody can see what we're seeing, but we are staring at the surf coming in on the Atlantic coast. You know, from miles and miles out, the water that's hitting here was probably in Britain, you know, 10 years ago or something. I don't even know. I don't even know how it all works, to be honest, but it's just beautiful to stand at the edge of the earth, look at the sky, and yeah, we saw this weird portal last night looking kind of thing.
It was blue as
I
hell.
think it was just the light beam from down the way, but I don't know, man. It looked really weird. It's bizarre, but...
You see the Ponce Lighthouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Kelly Slater grew up surfing. That's Ponce Inlet. It's like A1A Beachfront Avenue, just like Vanilla Ice said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the places in the blog that I was looking at today for like different sunsets and stuff. Because had the weather been nicer, we might have tried to do a video version of this.
It was nice for a while, and then it just...
Well, it stormed all afternoon. Like, I was looking for like a sunset spot to kind of go and hang out at and like do some filming and get some B-roll and like see a beautiful sunset. Like,
Well,
but
you can see beautiful shrimp boat lights right now.
I mean, I see. Yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful setting itself. I just meant for the viewer or the listener. And at this point, it'll be a listener. You know. But, oh man.
Do you see that light right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, there's some people chilling over there smoking buds. I know that's what they're doing.
Well, it might be.
You know, the first night I came out here, you know how they had that lifeguard stand I showed you earlier? You have to forgive me, I'm buzzed, so I'm going to, like, ramble. But there were people, like, doing it in those things, man, one night when I was walking by here.
Sure.
And I was with my son. It was so weird.
Of course.
He was like...
Of course you were.
Yeah, I was like, it was like the week before...
Oh, it would only happen then.
Yeah, right. It's like the week before school ended, or started, and he's like, are there people in that? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what are they doing? And I couldn't really tell, so I kind of leaned in to look, and I'm like, oh, yeah, we need to keep moving, dude. It was weird. It was really weird and awkward.
It's a crazy place. This is definitely like a kind of a party town. Like, it's more of a party town than I even really had in mind for, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of things going on here.
Not on my side.
But it's just like 50s. Yeah, no, not on your side, but in the actual place where people gather and congregate. It's a 50s built place. This place is for people in the 50s who worked in the South and wanted to go hang out on the beach and see some muscle cars and drive around a track. Like, that's what this place is. That's what it embodies. And every place has its own culture, its own essence, its own style, steez, whatever you want to call it. And that is definitely what this place is. There's people on motorcycles, a lot of people on motorcycles. There are these old condos everywhere. Lots of palm trees, beautiful beach, beautiful ocean. You know, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just this place that was once this vacation mecca that could have been like a Beach Boys video at some point, you know? Like, it just is that. It's cool.
I'm going to take my shoes off. I want to feel the sand.
As you should.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm down to my socks.
All right. You got a lot of foot coverings on.
Yeah. I don't drink, so now's the time, right? Like, this is Truth Serum.
This is it. You were in Arkansas only, what, a few years ago? How long has it been?
Over 2 years ago.
Now, that is not that long. And so since then, you've lived in New York, Arizona, and now Florida. So 3 different places you've moved the radio station to.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I was just following my heart.
I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing, dude. Look how easy it is to move. I mean, yeah, it's hard, but it's also easy. It's like everything's a half-truth, you know? Like, I mean, but like, it's like, bam, you're in New York. Because the first time we met and talked, you were in New York. Because I remember I had somebody I was working with who lived up in northern New York. And she was amazing, too. But that's when the first time we talked. And then you were in Arizona the next time we talked. And then you were in Florida the next time we talked.
Yeah.
And then we were both in Arizona for Ground America's thing.
Right. Which we're doing again. Y'all better come out. It's going to be me, Owen, and Brandon, and Greg from Higher Side Chats.
And we'll have the Sonic Portal there. You get to go sit and have a gong bath after you had a fucking ice bath.
Yeah.
With a fucking shaman.
Yeah, Brandon can talk to you about pimpology. I mean, that was last year. I think it'll be something different
I
this
think
year.
we do need to study and learn pimpology. I think we need to learn everything, right? Like, you need to learn all the different ideas that there are to properly arm yourself. Because a master doesn't look like they're at work. Let's be honest. A master is so good, they just seem like they're just natural.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are just natural. And I mean, that brings on the whole topic of ethics and being natural versus attempting to be natural or whatever, but all is an illusion anyway, I would say, I guess. I don't really...
Even when you're,
Even me talking to you right now, there's still certain things that I want to appear as and have an idea about and have an ego and identifications about. Like, I don't want to be perceived a certain way and
You should drink like what I'm doing. That'll go away.
Well, I mean, I get that, but like, it's not even that. It's not even that. Like, there are implications, and the more that you kind of have a sway or an influence, the more that you're going to have to acknowledge that, because people cling to stuff and people are ready to pop So kind of saying something controversial or inflammatory or something like that.
Baphomet's not evil?
Well, I don't think that's intentionally controversial. I think that's just a statement of fact from your perspective, and I tend to agree. I showed you a picture of a buddy made, of me earlier, which is hilarious because like I agree.
Oh,
like
the hot dog and stuff?
Yeah. It's like I agree. It's like everything is what it is. It's all neutral. Technology is neutral. It's how we use it. Infrastructure is neutral. It's how we use it. All is just the same thing. And it's about how we leverage and
well, I mean,
use these certain tools. And of course, I think they're going in a weird direction, but
my practical point with the Baphomet thing and the most practical, reasonable, logical sense for people that actually research it, is that, yeah, it's an ugly statue, and you see it in a lot of media and stuff. But the same people that are saying that the media is giving you a bunch of propaganda are propagandized about Baphomet, thinking it's evil, when it was originally created by Eliphas Levi in his book Transcendental Magic, that you'd have to actually read to understand what I'm saying. And then everything, even the pentagram. He was the first person to talk about the inverted pentagram, which was very controversial, right? But he explained what it meant. And then next thing you know, as the statue progressed, it changed. Just like the swastika, it was something before that.
Sure.
As it changed.
So what was his initial interpretation of the upside down 5-pointed star of the pentagram?
Well, his interpretation was the upside down pentagram was the beast-like beast-like tendencies of materiality, right?
Sure.
So the pointed upright star means you're manifesting or transcending into spirit, right? That's transcendental magic. Just like the movie The Fifth Element, the 4 elements, and then the top is the spirit. When it's inverted, it means that your entire focus is on materiality.
Right.
That's it. That's what he talked about in the book.
It's just pure ego worship.
Yeah, but it's yin and yang, right? Materiality all the way to its densest, ego worship.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the other people who are so into spirit that they're just lost into that ethereal realm, and they're not grounded at all.
Right, and he explains that in the book, But he also calls it evil. So back then, they all called materiality evil.
Well, materiality is kind of evil.
Oh, it's definitely evil.
There's something to it that's just like the carnality of it, like that just makes your stomach sort of turn. I don't know. Maybe that's not the same way for everybody, but in certain situations where I've been in, and I don't know, I guess I'm probably a little bit exposed and, accustomed to it, but like the carnality of certain things has often left a weird feeling. And when I say that, I'm not coming from some like puritanical fucking, like you can't drink a beer from a keg or like eat a chili dog kind of thing. Like I just mean like, I've been in places where it just seemed like what people were doing, it just seemed off. I don't know what it was.
Well,
it was beyond a party,
I've seen the worst of the worst when it comes to the beast and animalistic things here with humans. Stuff that has scarred my brain and traumatized me to the very depths, But at the same time, we have to live here for a little while.
We have to live here for while we're here. So I think that's one of the things that pisses me off the most about the spiritual community is they're always trying to transcend everything or really avoid it more than anything else, and it makes me want to spit hot nails everywhere. Yeah. But anyway, I didn't.
Well, it's all right. Like so like every element should, when you learn to balance it out, and the whole idea of the balancing of the elements and doing all that stuff actually came from the Greeks. Where they got it from, I'm not sure, but that's as far back as I've researched it. It came from the Greeks. It was their whole philosophy, right? And the mysteries took it from there, and they take little stuff from history and then add and make bigger and different schools out of it. But it's to be balanced in each element. So there's evil in each element.
Sure.
But materiality also
Well, materiality as evil.
Yeah,
would
like
you say that would be sort of
the earth element is different from just materiality. Sure. Materiality is like a focus on everything material.
It's like control. It's like this fucking like desire to like
make as much money as possible, control everything.
Yeah, have physical
have
stuff.
Power.
And honestly, like you need to cue off that a little bit. Like you need to be like, all right, well, am I actually do I have the things happening in my reality that I want? Like, are there physical manifestations of things? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it all comes from that mental level too. So you have to start there.
Yeah, everything's mental first.
Building that, but like there should be physical.
Well, I grew up,
evidence that you're doing the things that you fucking are trying to do.
I grew up poor, bro, like really poor. My whole family's been poor for the most part. But my dads and uncles, they kind of like made it a little bit better, but there was still poverty from time to time. And, rich people were like evil to us, right? And I'm not sure if it's because of that belief that rich people we met ended up being evil, because they definitely did, for the most part. But I've met a few rich people that aren't like bastards or evil. They're just successful. That's all, So it's not about just money. It's more like...
Yeah, you can't judge somebody based on just one aspect of their life.
Yeah, it's more like the focus on your time here, that your ego is so focused and inundated on like having everything that you ever want while you're here, which is fine, but to the point where it hurts others. And I think Tripoli said it right. It's really simple. Like, did you cause pain and suffering to others? And materiality and the focus on materiality in that sense has caused massive amounts of pain to others, right?
I think that all gets sort of accounted for in the grand scheme of things. I think, there is weeping and gnashing of teeth, like to put it in a Southern Pentecostal way, where like if you have tormented or hurt other people, then you will absorb the swing back from that. Like it just is what it is. Somehow, I'm not exactly sure how, not that I know all or anything, but I do believe in the law of compensation. I do believe in the law of balance. My favorite philosophers of all time are all about balance, all about compensation, which is like the most boring law. Everybody just wants to roll their eyes and yawn. And I do too, because it's like, yeah. But the more that you see it, the more like nuance that you can kind of see on it, the more it just puts you into that relaxed state where you're like, all right, well, cool. Yeah. Oh, really? That happened today? Okay. Instead of being emotionally triggered by it, now all of a sudden, what swings one way is going to swing back the other. So you can kind of just relax.
Yes.
And allow it to be what it is instead of freaking the fuck out about it like people do so often. I don't want to say like the conspiracy, because like I'm here to uncover truth.
You're here.
I'm not here to point out like a bunch of bad things all the time, because we ultimately hold our own destiny in our own hands.
Dude, I think people are here to realize the mystery, right? Like the truth of the mystery is you don't know, right? We can go to the doors while we're in these bodies. We can get to the doors, but there's a whole entirely other realm of exploration in that place that I've talked to physicists. I mean, this thing keeps falling in here. I've talked to physicists. I've talked to, I don't know, dude.
You've talked to a lot of people.
So many people, and they all have the same questions, right? So no matter what you accomplish on this earth, while you're here, all you really want to do, if you just keep asking why, and you really be honest with yourself, all you really want to do is like be genuinely loved, which seems completely hard for some reason. I have no idea why.
Sure.
Be happy and be comfortable. We think it's all about money, cash, hoes, and all this other stuff, but it's really For the most part,
that's a social program right there.
Yeah, dude.
Sure.
For the most part, people just want to be comfortable.
Well, I mean, comfort even though is the enemy of the good, because you have to develop, you have to grow. And so I think so many times I've been pushed. And we were talking about this earlier about like codependence, independence, and interdependence, and trying to skip independence
part,
because it's like, I don't want to have to be independent because it's hard, and it fucking is. But until you've attained that, you don't really have the right to be interdependent. You're just kind of being a fucking pretentious little asshole who thinks they deserve something that they haven't earned yet. And that sucks to hear, but it is the truth, and I've had to learn it the real hard way. You know, I'm sure there's like a lot of harder ways to learn it, to be honest, but like the real hard way where it's like I can't find the right person. I can't find the right, you know, like sounding board, the right coach, the right for this particular issue or problem, like, and which has occupied a lot of my time because it's made me search high and low for the answers to certain specific questions and such. But
like, what question?
Like all kinds, man. I mean, like especially nowadays in modern times, like there are modern problems that we kind of have to deal with, and you know, I people have their. It's all about privacy too, so you can't be like, you know, jumping to things. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of cultural, I would say, effects that we're going to have to deal with based on the time that we've been alive. So you and I were products of the early 80s, right? Like,
yeah, I was born in 82. So
yeah, same. So, yeah, so, you know, we were born way before computers or the internet really were a thing.
Those were the
Pac-Man was a thing.
Good old times, man.
They were great times. We would go to the creek and play with snakes and somehow, you know, get home, and we would watch TV, and TV was fake, you know, it wasn't real.
Well, this is what, you know what, man, like, I think what happens is we get damaged. All right, as we get older, we don't even care about these questions. And then we get fucking damaged as we get older somehow, and it creates a longing for most people. That longing is usually one big thing, right? And when you narrow it down, most of the time it's love. But a lot of times, well, people say, well, I don't want to be loved, I just want to be successful. Well, why? Ask, why do you want to be successful? Right? Why do you want to be, well,
Sure.
And when they finally get really deeply honest with themselves about that, then when you just keep asking why until you can't do it no more, on the deepest level, and then that's what you project, and then you have this big, you're like, oh, this is the longing that I have, right? And this longing cannot be fulfilled by anything on this earth. And once you realize that, then it's all cool. It's all cool.
So what do you think that longing is? Is this like a longing to connect with everything that is, you know, like some spiritual kind of realization or experience? Or
I think it varies from person to person, right? Like,
sure.
Some of us grow up with the most amount of love and comfort that other people don't, right? So that walk for those people might be to find out, like, they don't need love or anything. They need to figure out who they are and, like, other things. And then there's other people that don't have love, and they, you know, and that's the majority of people, to be honest with you. And I'm talking about a deep, unconditional love that they're longing for. And so at the end of the day, this is why religion works for so many people, because they realize there's nothing on this earth that's going to fill that longing, and they give it to God. And once they give it to, quote, God, then everything in their life starts to work and feel better, no matter what happens, because they have faith. And what they don't understand, and I think what we're all trying to understand, is that it's okay, like, to have different gods. It's okay to project a deity or whatever you want to worship that feels that longing, because you don't know what's out there, right? You
Absolutely.
just have faith.
Yeah,
you know?
Dude, that's really what it's ultimately about, is like giving up the fight, is like how it's called in transurfing. Like, it takes you like 20 chapters to get there, but the ultimate idea is like once you just relax and let go of all the stress that you hold because you are yourself, and all of the worries that you have about everyone else and what they think about you being yourself are, like, once that shit goes out, like, you have so much more free energy. Yeah, you're still not perfect, but you're also not holding on to a bunch of bullshit that people really aren't even thinking about anyway. It's just all your own inadequacies and problems. Rest into and relax into the person that you are and allow yourself to be that person and continue on. And you'll do so much better, right? Like, you already have such a huge advantage at that point than most other people who are constantly thinking about what other people are thinking about them. And I mean, I say that as somebody who thinks about that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a comedian. I go up there and I'm like, well, they think this is funny, right? Like, I'm thinking about them. Like, if I go up there and say a bunch of shit that I think is funny and they don't, guess what? I'm an unsuccessful comedian.
Yeah, but was it funny to you?
I mean, the idea is to make it funny for me and them, but, you know.
More than likely.
I get it. Like, I understand the art of it, too, like, where Bill Hicks was not appreciated in his time. And I still don't think comedy has even reached a level that's comparable with what Bill Hicks was doing at that time, but I think eventually it will.
Yeah?
I do. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's going that way. I think there's a lot of people who are contributing to those types of ideas that are brilliant and honest. You know, truth to me is funnier than anything else. Like, if something's not steeped in truth, like, if you're gonna lie to me and then tell me a joke about it, I'm probably not gonna vibe with it as much. Other people, maybe it's different, but I like the truth. It's juicy. I can relate to it. I wanna know what happened, what really happened. And then you can just exaggerate that if you're smart.
Yeah, I don't know much about comedy, but I think it's...
I mean, I don't either.
It's cool. You know more about it than I do.
I don't either. I've tried it a bunch. I don't know anything.
I'd love to do some open mics just to see.
You should, man. You definitely have a natural ability. And I mean, I'm not going to tell everybody they should do open mics and stand-up comedy, but I will tell everybody they should probably try improv.
Yeah.
What's up with that light right there? That seems weird, right?
That's a headlight from the parking lot, I think. Yeah, you see all kinds of weird lights out here.
I mean, that's a weird light.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've slept out on the beach the other night because, again, I fight with my girlfriend, and I saw like 4 or 5 shooting stars out here, man. I see them all the time when I come out here.
I mean, it's actually quite nice, yeah. I mean, the condos are not, like, insanely tall. It's not like some places I've seen where they're, like, over 10 or 20, floors or 30 floors or something. They're only, I'd say 10 maybe. I don't know. Maybe tops. Anyway, it's not crazy down here. They're just older. It's cool.
It is cool. It's cool, but it's also so massive. It's
like your Aunt Jerome. No, wait.
If you walk up to
Aunt Bernice, your Aunt Jemima.
Aunt Jemima. But if you walk up to, like, the beach, it's so massive. You said it last night when we was out here looking at that blue light. It's so big and intimidating. It makes you feel kind of small, And this is not one of those beaches where it's like a little beach and it cuts off. It stretches for miles on both ends, I
mean, it goes all the way down the coast, I assume, right? Like, all the way down to Miami, right?
All the way down, like, to Ponce. And past it a little bit, and then you got to cut back around to New Smyrna, and then you keep going. It's like Cape Canaveral. And sometimes out here we'll see the rockets, like they look like portals going in the air when they shoot those rockets off from Cape Canaveral.
Hell, they might be,
SpaceX,
That's insane.
But this is a manifestation for me because a lot of times you'll manifest something that you don't even realize that you did, right? Because I dreamed about living on the beach. I used to tell my friends. I got friends messaging me on Facebook and being like, man, I can't believe you did it, and da-da-da-da. And people were like, the people that live here, the people that travel a lot or live in cities are like, what's the big deal? But back home in that small town where I came from, that everybody grew up in and nobody could leave, like, this was like going to space to them, right?
Yeah, I get that, dude.
And I said, one day I'm going to live on the beach. Now, I thought it was going to be Panama City, but sometimes things manifested in a kind of choppy way.
But you're like, what's a little bit more redneck than Panama City?
Yeah, what's more redneck? A little
Fucking
bit.
Daytona. Let's go, baby.
It's safer here, I'll be honest with you, because, there is some rednecks and bikers here, but there's also like, the beach. You heard the surfer dude at Millie's. He's, the beach dudes, and then there's, it's a pretty good culture, but it's also kind of weird at the same time,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like anywhere, you go to a new place and getting installed in that new place, meeting the right people, maybe it can happen really quickly and you're fortunate, but for the most part, man, it takes a long time. Like even where I live, like I still don't know that I know the right people where I live. I know some of those folks, and some of them I did know, and they left during the pandemic and stuff, but it is what it is. It's just constant motion and learning. But I think it's really cool that you're here, man. It's a beautiful place. It's very unique. It's cool. There's a cool scene. There's a lot of people around this area, more than I thought, more than I remembered.
Well, I gotta be honest with you, this whole journey from New York to Arizona to, I just followed my heart and in multiple ways, right? Like, personally, because you're my buddy, right? Like, I wasn't just following my radio station, I was following my heart too, And like, this whole thing has been a journey of self-discovery and isolation like you would never believe. Traveling around the United States when everybody was afraid to travel in COVID, listening to people just scared of everything. And the more I get around people that are just scared shitless of everything, and it makes me want to get away from them. And I hate that because it makes me like a dick, But I can't be around like people that are just looking for the worst case scenario all the time.
Yeah.
For either one reason to validate their fears or another reason to manipulate a situation.
I mean, it's tough because like, you don't want to generalize people. I don't want to alienate anyone. I will literally have all different types of points of view and ideas, even ones that I don't agree with, because I just think it's important to be able to keep an open forum and stuff. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah?
I don't know where I'm going with that other than it's just...
I didn't give a damn about...
It's just difficult to just be that transparent in our society. It's not even about platforms or any of that. Like,
I didn't give a damn about any of that when I started doing this. I started Lighting the Void because Art Bell... Well, I started before that, but because there was nothing on that I liked anymore. And I wanted to, I missed that. I got emotional fulfillment from listening to late night radio, man. Like, that dude was my best friend. Oh, it's what it felt like to me.
I loved Art Bell. I grew up listening to Coast, Open lines were my favorite thing in the world. My favorite thing in the world, Joe, were open lines with Art Bell on a Friday night. Like, I would just smoke pot. And I was young. I was probably 16. But I would just smoke. Like, nobody... my friends and I didn't really jive. I didn't get along with anybody. I was just learning who I was. I would just hang out, smoke a joint, and listen to Art Bell. Maybe fuck around on the CB radio and
right.
See if I could confuse some truckers for a minute just to entertain myself, be a little shit. But, for the most part, it was...
I was so fascinated by all the subjects, especially the out-of-body experience.
Dreaming, astral projection, showing up in other people's dreams and like these ideas that intuitively you've thought about that before.
Yeah, but I feel...
You can't do it, but you fucking have thought about it, and so has everybody else. And so what does that mean? What does that mean?
I don't know, bro. I'm just saying, I felt isolated in the biggest way. And then that show made me feel not isolated anymore, And then, I was happy. You know, I had a job that I fucking hated, but I would like sneak off and try to do like Robert Monroe stuff at lunch, you know. And then when I got home, I was thinking, I can't wait for Art Bell to come on. And it was just like, I was cool being alone. I was like, finally, I'm cool being alone. I've never liked being alone. I don't fucking like it, bro. But there's another thing too, is like I'm extremely picky about who I bring into my vortex and whose vortexes I allow myself to get sucked in. And this was like a problem for me, you know? So Art Bell kind of filled that gap. I didn't have to get in people's vortexes and, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I didn't like people, to be honest with you. I'm sure I come across as a dickhead, but I was awesome at customer service and sales and things like that, but I was annoyed by everything on this planet. Parking spaces, people, traffic, noise, all of it. All I cared about was like figuring out the mysteries, man, or getting out of body. It was like, it's what excited me, you know? And that's why I started the show and the station and all that. And I didn't give a damn about like having a platform or even a whole bunch of listeners or anything, man. I just wanted to get into that vibration, you know?
Well, like there was something special about that to me too. It really opened me up and made me understand that there were other people out there who were thinking about some of the same things that I was, because it certainly wasn't taught in school.
Yeah, man.
It just wasn't taught in school, wasn't talked about publicly. So same, like I identified with that greatly, and that's what I loved about what you're doing at Fringe, is that it really does carry that torch. And you know, I don't mean that in anything other than a complimentary way.
I appreciate it, but it ain't even close to my vision for it, because this stuff started happening so fast. At some point, things started happening so fast, and I did, like, all these people would message me, and I didn't know how to do it. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, all right? Like, my show went to a certain peak, and when it got to that peak, certain people started coming into my life and like giving me attention that I wasn't used to. But we all like attention because we all like love, right? And when you're vibrating on a certain level, I think it inspires people. And they want to vibrate on that level too, right? Or they want to get as close to it as possible, you know?
Of course they do.
But as the people started coming to my life, the longing for like genuine love started aching. Like, oh, I can be genuinely loved, which caused me to actually start moving materially, you know, which I wasn't doing, if that makes sense, you know? But on that journey, it's like the carrot that was being held in front of the donkey kind of thing. Oh, you almost got it. You almost got it. You almost got it. And what it was showing me, I believe, is like just about the longing, right? And that's why my show is called Lighting the Void, right? It's not about filling the void or any of that shit. It's like, here is the void. Here's where your longing
It's a lot of void,
you know?
And you know what? We get to spark a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a beautiful thing. I like the name a lot. It makes sense to me. You know, it makes me think of the it's like a Buddhist thing, which is like lighting the void, basically.
Yeah.
You know, in the same idea as that.
And the most genuine people, like I thought, you know, the more honest, when I'm talking about the why times 3, like if you really want to figure out something and you ain't really honestly, deeply asked why to the third power, you ain't even getting close. You ain't even close to being honest. And then being open about that is a whole other thing, right? But it inspired people. Even people would call in the show and be like, I just want to be loved. I heard people say that.
It's
like
the truth.
The other night,
we all want that.
That dude started crying on the show.
Yeah.
Right? And I know, and I said it the other night.
That was last night.
Yeah, I was like, there's so many people, you people, crying yourselves to sleep, and then you got to come out and act tough, right? There's so many of you that are like hurting so bad on the inside because of that longing. And then you got to come out into the world every day, and you got to accomplish something, either because you don't feel secure about where you are now, or because you're trying to impress somebody or whatever. And it's all to get to that longing, man, you know?
Well, that's how the Christian church got me, you know, like
Yeah,
it was
because they're like, Jesus is the answer.
inadequacies,
Yeah.
you know, like there's some stuff wrong with you, you're bad inherently, and you know, all these toxic ideas like projected onto a consciousness where it's like, damn it, like I can't hold up to this standard. Well, that standard was not created by you. That standard was created by
People.
somebody else who wants to take advantage of you potentially.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
about people.
that's not what you want, and I don't know. That's maybe it's what you want if you want to have power, but it's not what you want if you want to have a healthy psyche. And ultimately, that's what I'm interested in,
Man,
helping people figure out. You know,
I remember the most embarrassing moments, like was getting thrown out of church when I was a kid. My dad would ask questions that they couldn't understand. Like my dad was one of those guys that literally, like if the Bible said something, he wouldn't let it go, you know?
yeah,
So he hung on to this verse or something. And you know how most Christians are, they hang on to the verses or the scriptures. And that's ultimate truth, so it just trumps the argument all the time, right? That's how they win arguments. But either way, there you go, brother. Either way, he said, well, if God's no part of it, he would stand up in the middle of a church and be like, if God's no part of the lie, then why are we tell our kids there's a Santa Claus? Why are we worshiping God
that's a good question.
on a Sunday when it says to do it on a Saturday?
Right.
You know, all this other stuff.
Sure.
But my dad didn't know about the calendars. He just was asking a
We're just
question.
asking an honest question.
And we got kicked out of churches because of that.
Because he was asking an honest question.
Yeah, they called him a black sheep and all this stuff.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man. And he just wanted to know the truth. And to this day, like my dad's got his own beliefs, but in a sense, my father isolated me too from just society, and like every time he got a damn, you know, because my mom passed away, right? So every time he got a woman in his life, if they slightly hurt him, he was just done with them, you know? So not only did he isolate me, but he took out all his, he's the coolest dude in the world to everybody but me, right? So he took out all this pain on me. But that is the story that we came here to do, I think. Like, I don't have any proof of that.
Of course.
That created a longing in my heart for the divine feminine to like show up from me. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I've been chasing the whole time, the Shekinah, the divine feminine. Like, there's the mother divine feminine that's like, you're the special boy, I'll never leave you, I'm here for you, you're it, right? That's the mother thing. Didn't have that. There's the grandmother thing, which I kind of had, but, you know, the grandmother also has to like do all the other kids and everybody else too. So there is nobody there. The divine feminine in my life never, what do you call it? And this happens to a lot of guys too, right? Same thing for females, the divine masculine. It never showed up and solidified that unconditional love into your life and was there for you all the time, no matter what. See, and this is what creates a longing, that law of gender that we're looking for, that's actually within ourselves. So as men, if we have longings for that, what we need to do is take care of ourselves in that
I mean,
sense,
that's just the truth of it. Like, that's the hard part about, like, if I'd be honest, like, that is the hard part of being a man, you know? And you need to get to the point where, you know, you're not ornery or anything like that, but it's like, oh, what do you need a woman in your life for? For what? Like, what do you need anybody else in your life for what? Like, you need to be independent, and that's not a really fun place to be, if I'm honest, because it's like, if you're independent and you get to the top of the mountain, that's great. You got to the top of the mountain, but there's nobody to high five.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but you need to be able to do that in order to be able to be truly interdependent, like, you know, we were talking about earlier, where that's the promised land. That's the place in Monopoly. Like, we played Monopoly not too long ago, and there was a place in Monopoly, and we actually didn't finish the game. We got to this place, and that was it, where like everyone was thriving. Like, people owned property.
Yeah.
People, you know, I was coming through people's places, and I was like throwing down a few bucks, and I was like, yo, I like that place, man. It's cool. Your towels were clean. The sheets were nice, you know. I was just like goofing around, just being really silly.
Yeah.
But like, it just made the game more fun, and like, you endear each other to each other, and you get to know each other. Like, the only reason Monopoly actually sucked is because somebody had to win. Yeah. But if nobody actually had to win, it wouldn't be that way. You know,
well,
it's like these billionaire motherfuckers just want to own everything. Like, no, dude. Like, no. Like, you can't allow that.
Owning things to begin with is you have to, like, the whole idea of it is a ridiculous idea, if you ask me. There's nothing that you own here. Like, and they can say the Rothschilds and all this stuff, they own this or that. They don't own it, okay? They're gonna die. Things, no matter how powerful something is on this earth, it will die. Everything will die eventually.
But I mean, even spirits believe in property.
They're not gonna own it. It's gonna change. Something will change, right?
But I mean, somebody does claim whatever fucking territory.
They can claim it, but that's just like me trying to claim that I own a person.
Right.
It's not real.
Well, no, I think that's even more different, but you know, similar, but
just like this beach.
Level.
I don't own this beach.
Of course
if somebody owns that building right there, they built it, that condo right there, they put all their shit into it, they paid everything, but they don't own that land, and which is what the whole thing happened, where the governments come in and they say, well, you pay taxes on this.
Right.
If you don't pay your taxes, we'll take it from you. You don't own shit. And eventually, someone else is gonna, quote, own that thing, no matter how long that thing stands there, and then it goes on and on and on.
Well, I mean, is that even true ownership at that point?
That's what I'm saying. You don't. There's nothing that stays the constant for eternity. Nothing, especially here. So we don't own shit, right? It's a temporary like placement.
Well, sure, but I mean, I would still say, like, if I take your fucking shoes off of your fucking feet and like you don't own these, like, that's kind of a violation of your property.
Oh, it's a violation of my sovereignty for sure.
Yeah, so you know,
I would give you those shoes if you need.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just defining terms, and same.
And you would be a thief.
I would give my shit away too, for the most part, depending on what it is. But you know, like, also, I have the right to defend myself, and like, I'm a sovereign being, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It'd be like saying,
it gets weird, but you're
right. I own the ocean.
Yeah, right? Like, of course not. Of course,
and
you
this
can't
place
own the
will
ocean.
find a way to do it. I own this airspace.
Like, nature's.
We found a way to do that.
We're its bitch. She's not ours.
And now they're after space. They're after the moon, right?
Yeah, you don't claim this shit. You can't own this. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So essentially, like, people are trying to own people when they have the longings for the law of gender to find love, right? And that's what this whole, if you really keep asking why, that's what this whole thing is about, is like love or not love, right? And so people make a lot of money so they can be comfortable, successful, and they can experience life, and they can have the man or woman of their dreams or whatever, right? It comes easy. But at the end of the day, like, are you genuinely and truly loved? I thought, honestly, because I grew up poor, I thought, like, people that had money were, like, better. Like, they were just better. Like, there were leagues or something. You know, they were better than me. Or they didn't have the same dysfunction that I had. Now, I've met people that have had money, and the dysfunctions are far beyond what I grew up with in several different ways, or even the same, right? So they're not better at all, you know?
Sure.
So
no one is better. Like, that's a kind of
it's
caste.
a fucking stupid concept.
That would be a caste system. But, I mean, that's understandable, too, though. It's like, honestly, like, everyone should be able to grow. There are enough resources for everyone to be able to grow up, to have the resources that they need to be able to develop their talent, their divine purpose, to be able to give that and share that with the world. Like, that's actually, like, inherently part of the, you know, rollout of the thing, I think, right? Like, the whole map of it all, the whole, like, whatever you want to call that. But, you know, here we are as mankind trying to force a bunch of things and
I'll tell you what,
screwing everything up because it really sabotaging ourselves and our own creative abilities as humankind, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what they've done elementally to you. They've taken every element and they've twisted it out of balance, right? So having a lot of money and material things is balanced security, right? You know, it's possessions and material things are balanced security. Well, it's not about the shit on the outside. It's about the shit inside of you. The idea that you have of money, right? The idea that you can't, like, there's a lack or you need to be greedy or whatever. If you think about it, there's so much money out there in everybody's pockets. The market's doing like trillions of dollars every day, right? There's no lack.
There is an abundance
There's
of
an
money.
abundance of money. There's enough to go around for everybody.
Yes, there's more than enough for everybody.
All of your ideas strictly come from the fact that you're insecure about how much money that you actually have instead of how much money you're able to get. So if you really know inside, I can get money, right? Like, it's not a big thing. There's a lot of it. I'll just go get it. That's stability to me, right?
Right.
Then there's like...
It's like the Joe Dispenza thing where he's like, I just lost everything I owned.
So what?
Past the catch up.
Yeah.
And then the dude's like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, yeah, I am money, motherfucker.
Yeah,
like,
it's everywhere.
Like,
so what?
I know how to make it. Like, there's no shortage of this. But I mean, the problem is that people don't know how to make it, and that's what people need help with, right? Like, people need help with learning how to actually put these principles into practice, not some like abstract idea of like, well, just be the thing, just fake it till you make it,
no,
and
you
just,
can't do
know,
that.
blah, blah, blah. It's not, that's obviously not working.
You have to go get it, man. You have to go get it,
yeah.
Right? That's all there is to it. Provide value to someone, to a demand that needs, help people, genuinely help people, right?
Yeah, ask what
it.
People need, right? Like, I mean,
how hard is that?
I feel like, well, I mean, it's actually not that hard, and that's the thing about it. That's why they say the obvious is unseen. But it's like, ask what the world needs, man, and like, ask what the world needs and contrast that against what you can do. And if you can find something that you can do that the world needs, where you're like either ticked off about it, or you could see that it should be done better, or that, you know, the world genuinely needs it, like something that's consciousness raising, in my opinion, or something.
If you had all the, like, okay, so if you had a home, dude, that your dream home, right? If you had a home, you had a car, you had all the insurance you needed, whatever, and you had all that stuff. For some reason, anytime, like, even if that was stable, our mentality's been trained that it's still not enough. It's still not enough. You need to own and possess more things. Okay.
Well,
right?
I understand growth too, to contrast that, but
I'm not going to buy a Corvette. I would go rent a Corvette and drive the fuck out of that thing for the experience.
My philosophy is the same. Well, we don't think like boomers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're different, but I didn't mean to try to like get you off your point if you were driving.
No, but
somewhere.
if you go around the elements, it's the same emotionally, right? We're taught that emotions are bad. They're bad. Your emotions are bad, and if you express yourself emotionally, you're an illogical, crazy fucking person. And your parents taught you that, and everybody's been taught that. But the truth is, your emotions aren't telling you the truth about everything. Your emotions are telling the truth about whatever that mental thing that you were thinking about that caused that emotion. It's telling you your inner truth about that thing. But we're taught that that's bad. So when we express, hey, when people do this, it hurts, or when people do this, it feels good. Well, you're an emotional nutcase. That's what society's telling us, and it's wrong. It was given to you for a reason. That's the cups, that's the water element, right? And the fire is the same thing. Like, we know a warm campfire is awesome. It brings the animals around. It creates warmth or whatever. And when it gets out of balance, it fucking burns shit down. Or on the other hand, it's freezing.
Right.
So, but we're taught here, go after what you want. Get that bag. Hose, money, cash, tweak, like sex, sex, sex. We were just at a club and all they were saying is ass, 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 right? It's all about sex and this, sex and money. And they're pushing this balance thing.
And everyone knows every lyric to that song.
And everybody in that place is like digging it. But deep down, I promise you, if I had a long conversation with them,
they're missing something.
They're missing something. They really want genuine love. I ain't saying people don't like sex, but there's a reason for it.
Sure. Well, I think it's just
it's the creative force is what I'm talking
about. Well, I mean,
if
you can divert human nature in certain ways and keep people distracted and, you know, constantly searching for some source of fulfillment that they never can find, then they're right where you want them. Not to like lean into that whole like conspiracy thing. I mean, we as human beings want that fulfillment. We want to find it, and we look through different avenues, you know, but it's only ultimately within.
A warm fire will create...
Nothing can actually give you what you need other than yourself.
Right. But
that's just the truth.
A warm, balanced fire will create warmth for everybody.
Absolutely.
And the animals and everything too, right?
Absolutely.
So that's all it's about. Like,
and there's nothing wrong with like wanting good things for yourself and doing well for yourself. Because, dude, to be honest, until you're doing well enough for yourself where you can like buy a car and like, you know, pay off your debt or like whatever it is, you know, whatever it is that's for you. Like, you're not in a place where you can help anybody else either.
Yeah, so, whatever you feel is comfortable.
I mean, it's great to be able to even, if you're in a bad place, to be generous and help other people. I'm not saying don't help other people. But my point is, like, really, can you really help other people until you're in a place where you've got, you know, enough of momentum going on? So work on that, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's
but everything,
good thing.
see, that's another thing, too. I'm talking about fire right now. But society's trained to keep coming back to money, 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 right? And I'm talking about fire, and I just talked about water. So we have a hyper-materialistic focus, right? And even like air, where all things are mental, comes from. You get on the internet, dude, everybody's a fucking narcissist, and they got 12 different categories of narcissists, and you're either a narcissist or a fucking empath, and you're a victim on both sides, right? And it's like drives your brain crazy. And
it's a constant witch hunt.
Yeah, dude. And
I'm sick of it.
All more information.
I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it. Like, you know, I don't know how anyone else feels. I'm not going to project anything onto anybody else. I don't even publicly believe in NPCs, okay?
I don't either. I don't.
I mean, behind the scenes, we can talk about it. I don't fucking know. But it's like anything else. In reality, I don't fucking know.
It's intellectually stimulating to talk about it, which is a paradox.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's all it is. And that's great. But let's move on. Let's take what we know we can apply, and let's please apply it.
So balance the mind first. Understand your emotions are okay.
Yes.
It's okay to express.
And they're not always right either, you know, but like everything needs to be in balance. All those elements, like you're saying. Can you just talk about what the elements are and what they represent real quick?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So like, that's what I'm trying to do. So the earth is your physical body, your shelter, your money, and all that stuff, right? And it actually has like 3 different things. So it's actually that, but it's also a metaphysical thing. It's also a physical thing, and then it's an even higher alchemical thing, right? Which is different, you know. So we know the earth element is like, if I pick up the sand, that's the earth element. But in metaphysics, you know, it's kind of the same thing, but it's more like taking care of that thing. It's denser, right? When you get to water, I go out and pick up the ocean, and it ebbs and flows, and you can see the waves, like just like our emotions, right? But metaphysically, it's our emotions, you see. Alchemically, it's like mercury, which is it's the higher level thing, you know? And the intellect is the same thing, air. Well, I'm breathing air right now, okay? Air is the thing, it's like crazy, it's chaotic, but we need it, it's everywhere. And it blows the treetop back and forth like craziness. But the further you go down the route, the more grounded it is. So the air can make things chaotic. It's just like the mind, the intellect, or knowledge. And fire is your creative force. It's not sex. People think it's just desire, right? Desire is part of the creative force. It's only part of it. It's also your will. Your will is not the same as your desire. A warm fire is the will. Desire can get out of control. It gets completely out of control. It's okay to have desire, all right? But desire also sparks the will. You just have to learn that all the elements balance the spirit, and all the elements need to be balanced. And this place and all the shit that's happening here is the crucible. So you can balance yourself. And the whole idea is to know thyself, to project light from within you out into the world instead of letting the fucking world tell you who you are.
Yep.
And the more you do that, the more isolating it becomes, and you go on this journey, which is like the journey of the hermit, where you start to feel alone and isolated because you are unique in that sense too, right? There's all kinds of things about you that are different than me, and no one's exactly the same, and people want to relate, and they can't take it because they want connection. We weren't meant to be alone. It's actually natural for you to have a male or female partner, right? But until you become like that person that understands I'm on this journey, which never ends.
Sure.
Right? Until you understand the concept of that journey, then, in my opinion, you're interdependent, right? So you don't need a perfect person that's balanced all their elements that can be alone. You need a person that is understanding that they're balancing their own elements out too, along with you, and that they can go out in the world and do things and then come back to you.
Sure.
And be happy and working on
100.
Yeah.
It's not 50-50. That's a fallacy.
And then when those two people come together, the ultimate mystery happens, which is like stage 3 of the mystery, which is ultimate creation.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I mean, you can't control if somebody's going to come into your life or not.
No,
you can only control what level that you're at. So, you know, like we've talked a lot about, like, I just can't harp enough on, and for me, it's been a lesson where the universe and reality or whatever has just shoved me into it and been like, no, motherfucker, you're going to learn this, whether you like it or not, because you're obviously resisting it. You need to double down on yourself. You need to double down on your own abilities and put your purpose forth more than anybody
Data, right?
else.
Like David Data, the guy you introduced me to. Because I was trying to figure out how to like explain this, but when you introduced me to that guy, he
does a great
explained it,
job.
dude.
So good.
So love is free. Love is free, number one. And then they're not polar opposites, but in a sense.
Love is admiring the rose on the vine. It's not picking it.
In a sense, they are, right? Like, so.
Unconditional love.
The feminine is the thing that creates the atmosphere of love and holds it together. The masculine is the power that gives power to the feminine. So guys complain, you know, like, I'm giving all this, man, I did all this stuff for this woman. I did everything. And like, she's treated me like a bitch. Right? Like, well, first off, more than likely, she had been hinting to you how she was unhappy for years and years.
For sure.
And then the Saturn energy kicked in and she reset, and now she's going to go create another garden, and you weren't listening. And it's the feminine's job to take in the masculine energy and create something with it. So don't get fucking mad about it. It's only natural. It was your choice to give it, just like it was her choice to receive it.
Sure.
Until you understand that, like, everybody's going to fucking be mad at each other, you know?
Well, I think, and that, man, like, that's where I think we really need to start to learn to grow, is in communication. Because, you know, even today we were just, like, it was random, but it came up that, like, hey, if you're in the same place as somebody else for, like, a week or 2 months, or you get a roommate or something, you're going to get at each other's throats. It's just human nature. Yeah. And so we need to be able to, like, understand those things and see them before they happen, and be able to really understand ourselves at a human level. And that leverage, that awareness allows us to have a better scenario where it's like, hey, you know what, man, I've been here for 3 weeks. I'm going to go hang out at my cousin's house for a week, or like whatever it takes to like make those things healthier, to grow, and to be, you know, more wise and conscious as we move forward. Like, that's what it's really all about.
I missed that point too. So, David Data talks about, the masculine is free. So guys, the masculine is free. It likes to set itself in freedom, to go after its purpose.
Exactly.
Right, and this attracts the feminine. And the feminine wants to build energy around that purpose.
That's right.
So whenever you see, if you go to like seminars or whatever, you'll see a dude or whatever living his purpose, doing his thing, you'll see all these feminine women, right, come around it. And they're inspired by it, or they want to do whatever.
Sure.
And they attach themselves to it, which is sick that there are people that are using this full understanding,
right,
understand the truth of it, just to get laid or get their way, right?
Sure.
It's sick.
People do that.
So if you educate that, right, like, it's the same thing for the masculine to the feminine. When a masculine sees femininity and it sees a feminine creature creating gardens, the masculine wants that kind of thing as well, right? So So it's all this big play and this big ebb and flow, and what they've called the game. And Liam Thomas Christopher put a whole big article about Tantra about this, right? Which people are calling sex magic. But the true art of love is Tantra. When you really fall in love with somebody, it's going to bring out lots of chaotic things and tantric things, right? Like all the wounds will come out. If you didn't give a shit about the person, I promise you they won't come out. You'll use them for whatever you're using them for and you'll move on. But if you really intensely, deeply have a connection with somebody, those things will come out. And then we're all like, oh, this person's a narcissist or they're crazy or whatever and da-da-da-da. But it's these people trying to either use their ego to protect those traumas or someone that's either advanced enough to talk about it. And then they grow together, they grow apart. And there is no masculine or feminine, anything in nature, not trees, not nothing, not people, that stay constant forever. And even if you do from the time of high school till you're dead, you still die and you still transmute and it still changes.
Get ready for change. I can't wait for death, to be honest, in a way. Like not in a weird way, but
so nothing stays the same.
Like there are some things. Yeah, no. Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. That wouldn't make sense. And that's kind of what excites me about like what awaits beyond. Not that I'm in any rush. I certainly wouldn't, push the issue, but it's interesting to, especially based on some of the things that I've experienced. But yeah, dude, this is awesome. This has been a great chat. I feel like this is a good time to wrap it up and talk about what you have to offer, how you can help people get out of their fucking bodies and into their spacesuits.
To wrap that point up, like, I used to be mad at, like, the feminine as a whole, my whole life. And in a way, like, there's still some untrusting stuff. And there's probably still going to be things that hurt me. And, when it comes down to it, it's all about love, right?
Sure.
It really is.
Everything is God.
If you just keep asking why,
I'm an animist.
You'll get down to it.
It's all God.
Whatever you're trying to accomplish, you'll figure it out. But it helps you see the truth about yourself, and that's all that matters, is know thyself. And then once you know thyself and you vibrate and you see the ebb and flow of everything, like everything. Well, we were talking about that earlier. Then, that's also in your body. You can actually feel that when you get into what's called twilight, when you start to get to that place between sleep and awake. If you can keep your mind awake while the body is asleep, you can peel yourself out and you can actually transcend to another level. Now, all I know how to do is get people to the doorway. Where you go from there, that's a whole other thing, right? But I can help people get to that door so they can see it, because once you see that, then all of the shit of this world doesn't have the same effects on you.
That's cool.
It does not. None of the elements only control you when they're out of balance, and that's the whole story of the tarot. That's what the tarot's trying to show you, right? Elements only control you when they're out of balance. But once you get to a certain level, they don't control you anymore, and you understand that everything you're doing here is a temporary experience, just like Bill Hicks says. So what do you want to experience? Because you don't have a lot of time here, and you don't know how much time you have.
That's true.
And if you're like trying to make everything perfect, which I understand, before you do something, well, I need all this stuff perfect before I make a move. I just like, this is my polar point of view, I just like to say, okay, I understand that. That's a practical thing to do. We should all have a 5 or 10 year plan or whatever. But if you're not moving in that direction, or you're not taking the opportunities that are manifesting in front of you on a constant basis to help you get in that direction, and you can't blame the universe or say it's a sick joke. That's what we all do. It's you doing it. It's you, right? And you're still on that same...
We're entangled.
Yeah, dude.
We are part of this process.
So yeah, I try to help people like understand what I've learned to that point. And it's all neophyte stuff. It's not like advanced, anything advanced or...
Good.
It's just the basics of energetic balance, and it sounds boring, but how pissed are you?
Nah, dude.
battery doesn't work anymore.
If you can't
put batteries in the remote.
if you can't get out on the field to play ball, then you can't explore what's out there.
Exactly. And you put batteries in your remote, when they go dead, you're pissed it don't work.
Yeah, dude.
And you're the same way on the inside. You're a battery, just like the Matrix said.
Yeah, we are.
Elementally, it's a little bit more complex than an actual polar battery, but you are a battery in every sense of the word on all the elements. And you'll be able to experience not only the coolest freedom in your life, whether you've got money or don't, whether you have a person or you don't, whether you're not successful or you're not, once you get to that level, you know you can have and be anything you want. And so can other people. It's not about power. It's not about a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons people wanting to get power because they know. It's about
leveraging. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like a power, not about force. Yeah. I would say, like, a lot of people, I think, they want to force other people, or they think that they're going to have to take advantage of somebody else. It's not about that. It's about empowerment from within power, not power over somebody else.
Yeah, light and extension, man. Extend your light out from within you. And whatever happens, happens, man.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean don't be practical. There's a balance there, too. I'm not saying that. But didn't you tell me that somebody told you that, like, or maybe it was somebody else that, like, well, why get a job? You know, like, why just live in a van or whatever? I'm not saying that shit, man, unless you actually want to do that stuff.
I mean, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a job. There's nothing wrong with learning. You're going to learn from any job you have and learn processes, because ultimately, I hate to say it, but we're kind of all salesmen, you know? We are all selling something at the end of the day. You might be working for Bubba Gump's shrimp company, but motherfucker, you're taking that order, you know? Or like you're in the back hucking out shrimp kebabs or whatever. Like, you're fucking selling something. So it may as well be your own thing. And if it's not, that's fine too. Something that you're passionate about or you believe in, that's even better. Yeah. And then if you don't have that opportunity, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with having just a regular job. There's nothing wrong with that. But like the next step is just trying to get yourself into a place where, like, hey, I feel like passionate about this, or like, I want to help this particular thing. This is a job I can feel good about. And then beyond that, you know, doing your own thing or doing a thing with other people, that's an interdependent thing, which I think you and I are, and several other people in our circle are coming about and beginning to understand, like, but we needed to go beyond codependence and beyond
government,
you know, and become independent, truly, and then also establish that interdependence. And that's a healthy, good thing, and I don't think it's something that we can rush.
Just don't.
It's something that I wanted to rush, and I just want to...
You want to rush interdependence?
I want people to say, hey, yeah, rush independence. Be completely 100%, even if it's just okay, you know, like, and then consider... you know what? I don't fucking know. I know from my angle, I know I know myself a lot better than, I can't project who I am onto anybody else. But like for me, I needed to learn that. It was super important. Well, so I encourage it.
You're trying to help people, right? Like,
yeah, dude, be independent. It's a good thing.
Status you're in. No matter if you got a house, a car.
You don't have to do everything yourself. It's not about that.
But there's a mentality, there's a way of life, there's a whole vibration of independence. No matter what the fuck you own, don't own, where you're at, what you succeeded in. It's a vibration, right? It is. It's not about...
And that's where abundance comes from, and where interdependence comes from, and that's where I want to be with other people who are also there. And you can't get there unless you're there. You can't fucking fake it. You can push yourself to get there, but you can't really like fake it, you know? So that's what I want. I mean, yes, keep going forward and keep faking until you make it, but you're not gonna be there till you're there, and that just is what it is. But JoeRupe.com.
Or all the links are JoeRupe.info too.
Lighting the Void. Fringe FM.
Yeah, it's weird. Like we got all these websites. All the links that I own are at JoeRupe.info.
They'll be in the link for people, BootsyGreenwood.com, BlueCollarMystics.org. Thanks for listening to this podcast of Joe Rupe and I on the beach. riffing.
Riffing. Yeah, we're buzzed too, so it's probably annoying. It sounds like we're yelling over each other. That's what drunk people do.
No, I don't think it does sound like that. At least not until I hear it back. Thanks, everybody.